Children of Abraham Coalition. I believe it's not by coincidence, but rather I would say very much by divine design and intention. What in Jewish tradition we call the Sheret, or God's will, that the very first organized interfaith gathering in the entire world took place here in Chicago 125 years ago, beginning on September 11, 1893, as part of the World Columbian Exposition. It was the beginning of an awareness of our ultimate oneness. No matter the color of our skin, the language we speak, the religion we practice, or our country of origin. And this teaching, so prominently noted in the Holy Quran and in Judeo-Christian scripture, is a profound reminder to all of us that a single human being was created for the sake of salam, of shalom, of peace. That no person might say, my lineage is greater than yours. The World Parliament of Religions has continued to meet every 3 years in destinations all over the globe. This November, the Parliament will be meeting in Toronto, Canada. And the children of Abraham will be very prominently represented with 18 participants of youth and adults. And we will be coordinating special school-age interfaith programming every afternoon for the Parliament. For tonight, each of us gathers as a fixer, a repairer, a healer of that which has been broken in our communities, our society, and throughout the world. Faith-based fear and stereotypes have replaced the honor and dignity that God intended to bestow upon every human being. In far too many places, and even within, sadly, the walls of our own government, hate has replaced love, and hurtful, judgmental, and demeaning language and speech has become far too commonplace in our exchange of thoughts and ideas. So how significant it is this evening that we should gather over a meal to share words of mutual acknowledgement, of respect, and of honor for one another. And certainly if you have not already done so, it has been mentioned, please make sure you are seated with one of a different faith tradition. The Children of Abraham began about 8 years ago as a vision of two religious leaders, Father Corey Gross and Shaheen Khan. I'd like to ask each of them to please rise at this moment to be acknowledged. For this coalition, with their guidance and nurturing presence, began as a vehicle to be upstanders, to see the face of God in the other, and to join hands and hearts in helping to repair and heal the wounds that we witness each day in our society. Over the years, the Children of Abraham has grown in its vision and is now officially a nonprofit organization with a 501c3 status. Its board is composed of both adult and youth representatives of the three Abrahamic faiths. We begin each of our monthly board meetings by joining together and affirming our mission, that we dedicate ourselves to educating others about the Abrahamic religions, to be ambassadors for interfaith dialogue and continue to learn about and to build relationships between our religions as we work to fill the world with salam, with shalom, and peace. I'd like also to invite full members of the Children of Abraham Board, if you would please rise at this moment to be acknowledged as well. The coalition has now partnered with synagogues, with churches and mosques, schools, libraries, and most recently the Northern Trust Bank in downtown Chicago, and helping to build bridges of understanding and of cooperation. We have partnered with the good work of Interfaith Family, Spiritual Playdate, which is an interfaith-based web program that builds bridges of acceptance for children. And we are now proud to expand our reach, believe it or not, to Birmingham, England, where we are formally connecting with the interfaith work of The Feast, which promotes community cohesion between young people of different faiths and cultures. Our work has now expanded as well beyond the 3 Abrahamic faith communities, as we have developed close working partnerships and relationships with our Sikh brothers and sisters in Palatine, as we unite together to create a hate-free world. And I'd like to invite those members of the Sikh community that are here with us, if you please rise to the occasion. My dear friends, this is sacred and this is holy work. And tonight we are all partners together in that endeavor. As a newly formed nonprofit, we also invite your generosity in certainly supporting all of our good works in our community and of beyond. Also would like to take this moment to acknowledge all the members of the clergy that are present here, from mosques and churches and synagogues. I'd like you all please to stand to be acknowledged for your support and your care. If you could please rise. Members of clergy. Also this past year, we were very honored to begin the Peace Camp, which is a way for our youth to connect throughout the communities in building relationships and mutual respect and understanding. And there are also a number of youth leaders here present this evening that were part of building and creating and supporting our first youth camp experience, Peace Camp experience. So I'd like any of the youth leaders who are present, please also to stand. In the spirit of this wonderful gathering, and you need to know how wonderful it is to look out into this full room of caring and supportive individuals. They will now take a brief moment of silence to remember all of the victims of the terror and hate that was unleashed upon our country on September 11th, 2001. All of those who continue to mourn. So let us now take a moment of brief silence. We take this moment as well to express our gratitude to the St. Viator's School community, to its student body, and to its leadership for the gracious hospitality and the opportunity to gather here from year to year. And I think it's appropriate that we also take this moment to express our gratitude to them. We also join together in thanking all of the many, many volunteers who have worked behind the scenes to prepare this space this evening. Thank you. And certainly invite all of you to please take the brochures and the bookmarks of the Children of Abraham with you at the end of the evening, as well as other materials that you will find on your tables. And so the parable is taught. That a person wandering lost in the forest for several days finally encountered another. And he cried out, "My fellow traveler, show me the way out of the forest." The person replied, "I too am lost. I can only tell you this. The ways I have tried lead me nowhere. They have only led me astray. Take my hand and let us search for the way together." And so the sage would add, so it is with each and every one of us. When we go our separate ways, we may go astray. Let us now, through this evening and all that we share, join hands and hearts and look for the way together. It's now my pleasure and honor to invite Mulana Behabu Mehdi of the Islamic Education Center of Glendale Heights to offer these words of opening prayer to us.
Salam alaikum, shalom, and peace upon you all. In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful, O Lord of the universe, your peace and blessings be upon all of your prophets, messengers, and righteous servants. O Allah, unite our hearts and set right our mutual affairs. Guide us to the right path and illuminate our minds with wisdom. Liberate us from darkness of ignorance by light of your knowledge. Bless our hearing, sight, heart, and our thoughts with righteousness and truthfulness. Make us grateful for your bounties and full of praise for them. O our Lord, increase in our knowledge and wisdom, ease the suffering of all people around the globe, and fill their lives with peace and tranquility. Send the awaited Savior, send Jesus and Imam Mahdi, who will fulfill the earth with peace and justice together, and will establish your kingdom of truth and justice on earth. Bless our nation, our country, its people and leaders. Bless St. Whiter High School. Bless this gathering, and especially bless our coalition of Children of Abraham, and bless the leaders of this coalition. Bless Father Corey Ross, and Sister Shine Khan, and all the board members of this great and wonderful coalition. Almighty God, bless us with unity and sincerity, and accept our prayers for peace. Amen. Thank you very much. If you allow me just for a few minutes after this prayer, I would like to recite just one part of a verse from Quran for you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. This verse number 135 from chapter number 4 is called Surah An-Nisa, the chapter of women. By the way, people ask about the rights of women in Islam. So there are 114 chapters in Quran, and one of the longest chapters is the chapter of women, Surah An-Nisa. But there is no chapter of men in the whole Quran. Can you believe it? Yes, this is true, because women are important. The translation of this part of this verse is this: O you who believe, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or your parents or your relatives. In Islam and in all religions, and especially Abrahamic religions, in Torah and Bible, what you find in common, as Quran has mentioned Bible and mentioned Torah, and said that these books and the book of Allah, Quran, all three books are the source of light and guidance for mankind. The common thing that we find in them is one word which is very much important and emphasized. And I think for this reason we are here all. And if we can convey this message to the world, which this single word, and it is justice. It is the hardest thing to do in your life, but the results are the sweetest ever. If you really practice justice, it starts within yourself. Be just with yourself. And when you be just with yourself, the result will be peace of mind and heart. You will find peace, no stress, no depression, nothing, if you are just with yourself. Then be just with your family, your children, your parents, your brothers, sisters, your relatives. Then be just with the society, with people. So justice everywhere. Why? Because God is just. He created everything based on justice in this universe. See the harmony and see the balance of every single creation of God. It shows the justice of God. And God needs us to be just with each other. I want to share very quickly, I know the time is important now, a story from Islamic history. Recently, a new Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, has referred to this story to remind his nation of the importance of justice in Islam. The story is this: that Imam Ali, alayhi salam, peace be upon him, one of the greatest leaders of Islamic Ummah, and he is the greatest leader and most respected and revered personality in Islam after the Prophet, because he was his cousin. And he was his successor too. When he was caliph, he was the ruler, he was the head of state. And he was ruling more than 1/3 of the globe. Strongest man on earth. One day he noticed that his armor that he used to wear is gone missing. He tried to find out his armor. Where is his armor? He didn't find his armor. After a few days, he saw his armor in the possession of a person. This person happened to be a Jew in Islamic state. In Islamic society, the Jews were living peacefully, and they should live peacefully. This is what Islam teaches us. Imam Ali, the caliph, the leader, the head of state, he came to him and said, "Brother, this is my armor." He said, "No, this is my armor." Imam Ali said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes, this is my armor." Then the Jew said, "If really you claim this, then you can go to the court." He didn't recognize who is he. You can go to the court. He said, "Let's go to the court." Imam Ali, along with this person who had taken his armor, both of them came to the court. The judge, when he saw Imam Ali, the head of state, in the court, he stood up with, in respect to him and said, "How you are here?" I said, "No, I'm here now as a plaintiff." "What is the matter?" Imam Ali said, "This person has taken my armor. I want my armor back." The judge, he noticed that Imam Ali, who is the head of state and also he has all the powers, he is coming to the court. It means he wants justice from the court. He doesn't want to take it forcefully from him while he knows that it is his own armor. He said, "Okay, fine. Then give me your evidence how you claim that this is your armor." He said, "I have 2 witnesses." "Who are they?" He said, "One of them is Ahmad. This person was a slave and Imam Ali, he set him free." The second person, "This is my son, Hassan." He said, "No. Since he's your son, I don't accept this from you. Do you have any other evidence? Any other witness?" And witness should be 2. "The other person, I will accept him, but not Hassan, because he is your son." He said, "No, I don't have anybody else." He said, "Then the armor should go to this person." Imam Ali said, "Fine. Good. It's okay." Both of them left. Then somebody told him, "You know who is he?" The Jew said, "Who is he?" He said, "He is Imam Ali." Who didn't know Imam Ali? He said, "Imam Ali? The Khalif? The head of state?" He said, "He is, yes, head of state." He came back to him. He said, "I apologize. Imam Ali, I acknowledge that this is your armor. This is not my armor. I had taken it without your permission, but after witnessing this great justice, that with this power that you have, you are coming for this armor to the court, I am returning this to you. Imam Ali said, thank you for returning this to me, but since you are a truthful person, you showed your truthfulness, I will give it to you as a gift. So this was the story I wanted to share with you. I hope all of us will try to establish such a justice everywhere, starting from our home to global society. Thank you very much.
So it's time to eat. So you will be acknowledged table by table. I guarantee you that in just a moment. As to when your appropriate time will be to go and to partake. I invite you now certainly to go back to where we were a short time ago in your conversations.
Teen Writers Artist Project. He's going to lead us in an exercise of practicing peace. So can everybody take a yellow sheet from their table and a pen, because we're going to be using it very shortly. And here's Adam. Please welcome Adam.
Thank you, Emily. Thanks. And thank you so much to everyone. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful event. Thank you to the board. Thank you to St. Viator, and all of you for being here. I'm really honored to do this. And hey, the food is good, right? One time, thank you everyone for bringing the food. I just ate my food like real quickly because then I had to come up here. I know it might be a little awkward to do when I sat down to eat, so the first part of this is really just going to be pretty informal and just going to be kind of facilitating conversations around the table. Yeah, so a little bit about me, just quickly. So, my name is Adam Gottlieb. I grew up in Chicago, in West Rogers Park neighborhood, still live there. I am a full-time teaching artist, so I do a lot of stuff like this around the Chicago area. I do all sorts of different things, mostly teaching poetry to young people. I'm a youth worker, I also come from an interfaith background. My dad was raised Jewish, my mom was raised Catholic. I would love to acknowledge any other interfaith families in the room. Is anyone here from an interfaith family? Hey! Woo. Thank you for raising your hands. For me, that's become a really important part of my identity, and is part of why I'm really grateful to be here today and to do work with good organizations like Children of Abraham Coalition. I really identify not just with one faith tradition, but with both Judaism and Christianity, and even more beyond that. Kind of a word I learned recently is pluralist. I like the sound of that. That feels good for me. So yeah. Okay. Cool. So I was asked to come and lead a quick workshop, and it will be quick because there's still one more person on the program after me, and we're running a little bit behind. And that's the last time I will reference that, or the fact that it will be quick. But I was asked to come lead a workshop, on the theme of interfaith peace. And so, I use a pretty straightforward method for teaching writing, and it's not even like, you don't even have to think about it as like a workshop. Really, it's just a conversation, but we are gonna hopefully, do some writing too. So, the main question here is like, what would peace between religions look like? First of all, I think you could just look around, right? And acknowledge, this is beautiful. And how do we take this out into the world, and what kind of world do we envision for ourselves, where our different traditions and cultures and peoples and nations can coexist peacefully? And so that's the question that, I want to invite us all to think about and explore through this creative writing process here. Because it's what we're here for anyway. So the first thing you'll see on this handout here, well actually I was supposed to share my poem off the top, wasn't I? I didn't do that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So let's you can turn to the last of the two pages. The last thing you got there is a poem that I wrote, a special event. It's called The Song. It starts with a quote from the book of Isaiah. My house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Come, let us go to the house of all prayers, where the thirsty are given clean water, and the hungry are fed, and the air is as fresh as the first morning light, where nobody is right, because nobody is wrong, where you walk through the door and hear the sound of the sun. There's a wall to the east, where all instruments hang. There's one waiting for you and for me in the jam, in which rhythms and voices and languages merge into one universal hymn, old as the earth. Come, let's go now to that house of all people, that place where we all can dance in our own way and pray and give thanks for the ones who kept living and whispering the vision of this home to stay. Thank you. That was a lot of fun to write, actually. I loved the opportunity to write that. And I'm a musician too, so that's what the musical imagery, came naturally for me. So I'll say more about that and my process for it as we get into, another stage in a little later in this process here. But the first step, I think, in this process is to brainstorm, to really just get out in speaking or in writing or both different things that you want to explore. And so that's what this list that says brainstorm here on the front of your little packet here is all about. And it says talk with a neighbor or small group and make lists. So really you could talk to the person next to you, or you could have one conversation around the table, whatever, feels most natural. And then as you start to talk about these questions, start to write down some of the things that stand out from the conversation, and just start to collect these images and ideas, themes that come up. So I'll just read this list of questions here. What do you most want to know about other religions or peoples? What do you feel is most misunderstood about your own religion or people? What do you most want to share about your own religion or people? And then the last three are really important too for writing. This is more where you're going to start coming up with images that you could use in something like a poem. Images that come to mind when you think of what all religions have in common. Images that come to mind when you think of peace. And I'm going to take that even farther and say specifically, again, that main question, what would peace between religions look like? And you can be metaphorical or you can be really, really concrete and specific with that. And then times or places in your life when you have felt peace. And that can be as simple as like sitting on the couch, reading a book or watching TV or whatever. Or it could be, in church, in the mosque, in the temple, or right here, and try to be specific and use details. So yeah, feel free to just spend, let's say, 5, 6, 7 minutes. We'll see where we're at that point. Just talking about these things, and then trying to write some things down. You can use the back of the paper and the pens there. Try to at least get some good images by the end of this time. All right, cool. So I heard some pretty beautiful things just walking around. Unfortunately, I didn't get to hear too much because, well, it's hard to hear in this room. But I'm gonna ask for maybe just 3 shares. I know that's a small number. We'll see. Maybe we'll do more than that. But because, yeah, for time's sake, let's just ask for a few people to share just one thing that you're going to remember from the conversation with Bree, and Suman and Joanna are going to help run the mic. So just raise your hand. Oh, and meanwhile, be writing stuff down, other things that you want to remember from this conversation. Alright, if I could call for people to bring it down to silence for just a moment. I'm going to have a share here from Zaina.
Okay, so the question I want to talk about is question number 2, which is, what do you feel most misunderstood about your religion or people? What I think as a Muslim is that many people think that because of there are many people who are like terrorists and they do wrongdoings in the name of our Lord. And so they're so-called Muslims. They are totally not Muslims. And so that's what many people, they only get half the part. So they don't understand that those people are they're not Muslims. They're the people who are trying to ruin the name of Muslims. And like the 9/11 attack, for example, it was done by a person who is known as, people think he was a Muslim, but he isn't a Muslim. He was just a so-called Muslim. Even though he probably does his prayers and everything, it's not accepted because he's not following what the Quran has taught us, to be peaceful. Thank you.
That was powerful. Thank you so much. We have just a couple more shares. Feel free to raise your hand. We'll try to have a few different religions represented, but you could respond to something that you said or something that somebody else said that you just want to say, I heard this and I really appreciated it. Or it could be one of the images of peace that you came up with. If not, that's cool too, but I'm sure there's at least a couple more people who want to share. You got one over there? All right, thank you.
So at our table, a lovely lady named Marlene shared that she comes from the Jewish faith tradition, and when she was 9 years old, she was discriminated against, not able to go to the community birthday party, and a carton was filled with liquid and thrown at her. I was saddened to hear that, but Marlene, you're welcome here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Marlene, for sharing. I was at that table. It's a cool table. All right. And then, does anyone have an image? Do you have or is it whatever it is? Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to share one quotation. I read it for the poet Rumi.
Yeah, beautiful.
A beautiful quote, and he said, I looked in the mosque, in the synagogue, and then I found the divine in my heart.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that totally is an image too. Yeah, you applaud it. Thank you so much. I think I'll move on to the next step now, even though there's so much more that we could share. Okay, we can take one more. You got it. Run over there. Last one. But yeah, no, that's totally an image, right? You have the image, like I went to this all of these holy spaces, but I found God in my heart.
Okay, like always look for in the religions. Don't look like why we are different, what is the matter. Just look what we are close for. Like the similarities between us. And thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, that is what peace would look like. Right. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you to everyone for sharing. Thank you, Joanna and Suman for helping. And the next part is really just to choose a prompt and just to start writing without any judgment. Some of you might like writing, some of you might think, oh, writing is not really my thing. I ask that for just a moment, you kind of forget about it. Whatever you think about yourself and writing. And just try not thinking of it as a poem or anything in particular, but just as your truth. And to respond to this conversation that we're having and this main question here, what might peace between religions look like, in writing. So we'll take some time to do that, and then we'll have just a few shares afterwards. So we'll do another round like that. So I wrote some prompts here. Peace is, or peace looks like. You know, it's always good to just have a good hook, right? A line that you can repeat. And you can use that, again, you can be literal, or you can use metaphors, or whatever. Peace is, you know, a house where everybody eats, right? Peace is people from all religions gathering for a potluck around 9/11, right? Or peace looks like, right? Acrostics are fun. It's actually an ancient form of poetry that's all over the Hebrew Bible. It's acrostics. I didn't know that. But they're not just for second grade poetry. So you could write an acrostic poem using any of those words. Meaning, you know what an acrostic is. You start a word or a line with that word, whether it's peace, shalom, salam, understanding, or use your own word. And then the last one that I suggested here is to start with a quote. That's actually called an epigraph. And the poem that I shared at the beginning started with a quote from the book of Isaiah. And I actually found a bunch of quotes from different scriptures. If you turn the page, you'll see them. So you can choose one and kind of use it to explore what that quote might mean, to use it as a starting place to build a metaphor off of it. That's kind of like what I did, right? With that first poem, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. I just like that image, you know, of the house where everybody's together. And so I kind of built some extended metaphor for interfaith peace in my poem around that image. So I have a book, it's called World Scriptures. I read it almost every day. It's really such a beautiful book. And so I just picked out some quotes, and I really like epigraphs because sometimes it's what it says that really sets the tone. Sometimes it's who's saying it that really sets the tone. And I think the best epigraphs are both, right? If you find just the right quote, it can really inspire you to say something, you know. So that's the third form, or you can make up your own form. And again, it doesn't have to be a poem or anything. We'll spend, I don't know, another 7-8 minutes. That's not a lot of time for writing. Maybe we'll have time for 10. And just start something. And you can continue to talk while you do it, but the best energy for writing in a group usually comes when there's pretty silent space. So try to keep the volume down, and then we'll let 2 or 3 people share, or however many we have time for. All right. Any questions? All right. Write a piece that helps us move toward greater understanding and peace between religions and peoples. Have fun.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. And I think one of the Bible quote, I think that is one of the best one to where we can have peace with all other communities. So that is a Matthew quote. It says, you should love your neighbor like yourself. You shall love your neighbor like yourself. So that means if your neighbor is a Christian or a Muslim or a Sikh or a Hindu or a Buddhist, so you should have little better feeling. If you start looking at others with those better feelings, so definitely one day you will be one faith, there may not be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Beautiful. We have another one. And will you please say your name for us?
The pebbles are the strength of the wall. We in this room are each a pebble, and if we stand together, and this room is filled even more than it is this year, as it was last year, we too can and will have a strong wall against the hate and prejudice that surrounds us outside at this time.
All right. Thank you. Is that Ruth? I see. Yeah. Thank you, Ruth. All right, we got a few hands over here. Let's try to get to, the one or two of them at least. Yeah, sure. Go first. Okay.
Peace is my wish for you. Shalom is my dream for all. Namaste is my greeting. Justice is my mission and commitment. I honor our differences. I am strengthened by what we hold in common. In understanding and acceptance, we are embraced in communion and call one another by our truest name, brother, sister.
Just give us the word.
Peace is understanding, believing, and caring, seeing each other as a family, sharing ideas, thoughts, and prayers, noticing the similarities and not the differences. Peace is calling everyone your friend, acknowledging and respecting, letting us choose who we want to be, and allowing others to express it. We stand here holding hand in hand, not being afraid, looking forward and not back. I see the love, the peace, the understanding, and I hope that it lasts.
This one will be the last one. Thank you.
PEACE. People eating and celebrating each other.
Nice. That was a great way to close it out. Thank you. Those are all so beautiful, and I'm so glad. Thank you for the sharings. We can do one more? We got a word. We got one more. All right. Here, I'll run the mic. Wonderful. These are so great. Thank you.
I'm Allison. Shalom. S. Sharing differences. H. Having each other. A. All together. L. Love. O. Open arms and hearts. M. Members of one body.
Yeah! I love that. You used the acrostic form and you got the metaphor at the end there. That was beautiful. You guys are all poets. Look at you. Thank you so much. This has been truly humbling and beautiful. And let's go save the world. What's happening next? Other than us saving the world. All right.
How about that for Adam Gottlieb again? Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you. At this time, it is, as we start to draw toward the end of our evening, we are gathered here not only to build relationships that will carry our world to a more peaceful place, but to honor those who have been carrying the world to a more peaceful place through their courageous service in the name of interfaith work and dialogue. And so a few years back, we at the Coalition decided to honor during each interfaith family potluck an individual or an organization that we believe has been a star in what can be the darkness of the world. It's called the Courage of Abraham Award. Abraham, the man we all trace our lineage back in the Abrahamic traditions. A man who had to leave home, risk everything to do what he felt in his heart was God's call. A man who stood against hate and fear. So tonight we are going to once again award the Courage of Abraham Award. Beforehand, though, I would like to acknowledge a dear friend of mine who was our first awardee, Steen Metz, who Steen is as a young man, survived the horror of Theresienstadt concentration camp, and now educates every year hundreds, if not thousands, of young people about their role in stopping hate and bigotry. And I would ask you, Steen, my friend, to stand so that we can once again thank you for your continued work in the name of interfaith peace. A man who has seen the worst in humanity, who has devoted his life to bringing the best of humanity out. Thank you, Steve. Now, to introduce our honoree for this evening, I would like to introduce a board member who will do that introduction. Sarah? Sarah, come on. Welcome, Sarah, for the introduction. Sarah Mott is one of our board members, our young board members, and we're very honored that she has devoted time and has brought her leadership to our Coalition Board of Directors.
All right, good evening, everyone. It is my immense honor this evening to introduce you to this year's recipient of the Courage of Abraham Award. Jawad Abdurrahman is not only an executive producer at Unity Productions Foundation, but also its development director. His work focuses on fostering greater understanding between people of different faiths using media, philanthropy, and community service. Before UPF, he founded American Muslims Unite for Life, which registered thousands of American Muslims for possible bone marrow donation to their fellow neighbors with blood diseases. Unity Productions Foundation is a non-for-profit organization that is determined to counter bigotry and create peace through the media. UPF produces films that tell compelling stories from television, online viewing, and theatrical release. UPF works in Hollywood through its MOST, Muslims on Screen and Television Resource Center, providing facts and research to script writers and producers on popular shows seen worldwide. MOST has partnered with the Writers Guild Foundation to host events which are attended by the individuals behind some of our favorite shows, such as Greg Daniels, showrunner of The Office, and writers for The Daily Show. They are convinced of the power of media to empower citizens with greater understanding and to nourish pluralism in America and around the world. UPF's films have received acclaim worldwide and are often broadcasted on PBS. But this year, they are proud to announce that their most recent film, The Sultan and the Saint, has been nominated for an Emmy Award in Outstanding Lighting Direction and Scenic Design. In addition to his tireless work at UPF, Jawad also teaches at the Lilly School of Philanthropy at Indiana University and is based in Washington, D.C. Also, please note to the request that there's no filming going on because Jawad will be sharing copyrighted material. All right, please join me in welcoming Jawad Abdurrahman.
Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Greetings of peace. And to everyone else in the audience, go Cubs, go. So part of my job, as Sarah was saying, is not just to make films, but to raise money for these films. I'm a development director, and I'm going to show great restraint tonight, don't worry. I am not going to ask you to support our work, but I'm going to tell you a joke about fundraising, and it's a true story. And tonight's gathering reminds me a little bit of a gathering we had several years ago. It was a fundraiser for one of our films. And it was actually a mosque that was organizing it. And a number of interfaith guests said, we want to come and support. And we said, thank you so much, so kind of you, but it's probably better if you don't, just be weird. They said, no, we want to come, we want to be a part of it, we want to help out. We said, okay, fine. Interfaith guests show up, and there's delicious food, and they love it, and there's something artistic. A young woman reads a poem, they love it, and there's some great speeches, they love it, and the interfaith guests are like, you were worried for no reasons, we're having a great time, this is great. We said, just hold on, because then the imam comes up. The imam is the preacher, right? And you know when the preacher comes up, the preacher sometimes goes off script. And the imam comes up and he says, lock the doors. No one's leaving until we raise our goal tonight. And he starts harassing the audience, and he starts trying to inspire people and scare people, and he says all the bad things are going to happen if you don't support, and all the good things are going to happen if you do support, and he goes on and on. And slowly but surely the checks start coming up to the front. And he picks up the first check and he says, $5,000, takbir! And the audience says, Allahu Akbar. Now for those of you who have never been to a Muslim fundraiser, the word takbir is kind of like a signal, it's kind of like a question. You're asking people who is great, and the audience answers by saying Allahu Akbar, God is great. So rather than taking personal credit, you give credit to God. The next check, $10,000, takbir, Allahu Akbar. $20,000, takbir, Allahu Akbar. And one of the interfaith guests leans over and he says, there's a lot of people named takbir here. So we always say that there are many blessings of God in all of these gatherings, and so I want to thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for that lovely introduction. I sent her 3 lines, by the way. She added the rest herself. Thank you, my friends, Farah and Fayaz, who invited me, Sarah's parents, who've been dear friends and great supporters of our work. And thank you, Father Corey and Rabbi Hart, and the entire team that is here today who put this together. And let me properly begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. This is a prayer from the Quran of Moses that we are advised to say before we speak in public. I begin in the name of God, the merciful and the compassionate. O my Lord, open my heart. Ease my task for me. Remove the impediments from my speech so that they understand what I say. In sharing a story about the children of Abraham, I'm going to begin in an unusual place, in an unusual time. Yankee Stadium, 1939. It's the retirement ceremony for Lou Gehrig. For the past decade, Lou Gehrig has been one of the best players in all of baseball. He hits for power, he hits for average. His team has won a bunch of championships. But more than that, Gehrig is known and respected for his work ethic. His nickname is the Iron Horse. He's played in some 1,800, 2,000 consecutive games. Sadly, in his 30s, Gehrig realizes that his physical strength is weakening. He is diagnosed with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the disease of the muscular system and the spinal cord that causes paralysis and early death. Gehrig is barely able to walk, let alone play. And so he announces retirement. He gets in front of the mic at Yankee Stadium, and despite all of the difficulty he's facing, he says the famous words, "Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth." People are so moved by his grace, by his dignity, by what we call his sabr, in this difficult time, that ALS becomes known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Now the story continues on the other side of the world, in the Indian subcontinent. A young boy is born to this Siddiq family. And perhaps as parents, the way we choose aspirational names for our children, we want them to achieve greatness, we want them to aspire to greatness. The parents named their son Tipu, after the Indian general who was kind of like a George Washington type figure who fought against the British occupation. Tipu Siddiq grows up in a religious household, a household that cares about knowledge and learning, is faithful. And one of the things he's inspired by is a famous poet, Muhammad Iqbal, who's the most famous poet in the entire Indian subcontinent. But more than a poet, he's like a philosopher, he's a big thinker. And one of Iqbal's little couplets that children read is where they say, Zindagi Shamma ki surat khudaya mere, make my life like a candle that lights up the world. It's a poem that reads like a prayer. Tipu Siddiq goes to medical school in Karachi, comes to the United States to pursue further studies, becomes a neurologist, and he ends up here at Northwestern University, and he specializes in the research of ALS. Now, one of the big challenges with ALS is that for the past several decades, doctors didn't even know what was happening in the body. They didn't even know the cause. Forget about treatment, forget about a cure, they couldn't even explain what exactly was going on. And so put yourself in the position of a patient or a doctor. The patient comes and says, Doctor, my wife is 35 years old, she can't move her arm anymore. She's having trouble breathing, what is going on? You are the expert, we came to you, you're our last hope. And all you can say is, we don't know. We're working on it, but we don't know. And so Dr. Siddiq prayed with his patients, he comforted them, he cried with them, and he continued to go back to the lab. He continued to work, months became years, years became decades. Finally, a few years ago, Dr. Siddiq announces a breakthrough. He comes to the conclusion, he realizes that there is a protein in our bodies, in the bodies of healthy people, called ubiquitin 2. This protein acts as kind of like a waste removal system. But in people who have ALS, it's not doing its job. And so damaged proteins are building up in the body. This is the cause of paralysis that is happening. This is the cause of ALS. The cause has been discovered, and now that the cause has been discovered, pharmaceutical companies and researchers and doctors all over the world believe that they are so close to seeing viable treatments to give people a chance of normalcy in their lives, and even cures. Now there's one more part to the story, because Dr. Siddiq works at the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University, named after the Jewish family that endowed it. And so to attack this terrible disease, and hopefully to destroy this terrible disease, it took a Christian, Lou Gehrig. It took a Muslim, Tipu Siddiq. It took a Jewish family, the Feinbergs. It took people of all different faiths and traditions all over the world participating in activities like the Ice Bucket Challenge, donating their money, their time, to try to tackle this terrible disease. And let us pray that we see a cure to this disease in our lifetime. Say amen. Amen. While we may not agree on everything, just look at what we can accomplish when we work together. Just look at what we can accomplish when we focus on our core values. It is incredible, and it is inspiring. Now you could look at this story and say, well, that's an exception. That's exceptional. I mean, and in a way it's true. I mean, I'm not going to cure any diseases. Most of us probably are not. But if you change a few names and you change a few dates, you will see that this is not an exceptional story. This is the story of many people, even people sitting here today. It's the story of Kumal Ahmed, a young woman who was so fed up with food waste at restaurants that she invented a technology solution, working with people of different faiths and backgrounds to link restaurants and food pantries. And now millions of pounds of food that was going to be thrown away has been fed to people in need. It's a story of Asma Chaudhry, who started a multi-faith group of women in Orlando to go around the hospitals to help cancer patients heal through the therapeutic power of painting and art. It's a story of real-life superheroes Sohail and Mona Masood, who opened a comic book store and toy store in Boston with their special needs son Omar and his special needs friends, and are now working toward a franchise model. It's the story of the children of Abraham. Think about how much richer our lives are when we can appreciate each other in this way. Now there's another lens through which you can look at the story of Dr. Siddiq. For most Americans, when they hear the word Islam or Muslim, do they think of Tipu Siddiq? Do they think of Kumal Ahmed or Sohail and Mona Masood? Do they think of something beautiful or do they think of something ugly? We know, the research shows, the majority of Americans, when they hear the word Islam or Muslims, they think of two extremes: villains or victims. They're either the bad guys, they're either the perpetrators, or they're the victims of the bad guys. That's pretty much it. So many Americans have this view. The stories of Muslims engaged in service are missing. The relatable stories that connect us are missing. The story of the creative and intellectual contributions of Muslims are missing. The story of our humor, of our humanity, are missing. And so that is what our work is all about. Just a few months back, I had the honor of presenting our most recent film that Sarah mentioned, The Sultan and the Saint, here in Chicago. This is the heroic story of a meeting between St. Francis of Assisi on the Christian side and the Sultan of Egypt on the Muslim side, in the middle of this terrible conflict, century-old conflict known as the Crusades. But it's a story of how the tide turned from war to peace. Because having met Francis and having saw him, and Francis having met the Sultan, and the two of them built a relationship with each other. When the Sultan had the Christian army trapped, and his general said to him, "Now is the time," instead of attacking and continuing the cycle of violence, maybe it would have gone on another century. Instead of doing that, he sent 50,000 loaves of bread. He sent feed for their animals. And John of Brienne, the chief chronicler of the Crusades, said, "Who can doubt that such mildness and mercy proceeds from God?" In short stories I shared with you that we're packaging together as part of a series, that is our mission, to try to inspire the world with these stories of compassion and contribution. Now, I don't want to get too serious because this is a celebration this evening. And so I want to share with you something a little humorous, because humor can also be very powerful in breaking down barriers. And Sarah mentioned that one of the things we do in our work is we consult on various shows in Hollywood. We work with scriptwriters. They're not obligated to take any of our ideas, but we connect them to different people to help open their minds, help them see things, help them get a better picture. We're also scriptwriters, so we work peer to peer. And one of the shows I'm going to share a clip from is one where we did a script review and gave some ideas. This is an NBC comedy called The Carmichael Show. Now, how many of you remember the famous show All in the Family, Archie Bunker? Right? Pretty much everybody remembers that. So, you know, Archie Bunker, the kids are grown up, they're living in the house, and parents and kids are always arguing about the issues of the day, right? Archie Bunker is kind of this lovable curmudgeon, you know, and they're going back and forth all the time. So the Carmichael Show is a little bit like that, only it's an African-American family, multi-generational. And so in this particular episode, the clip I'm going to show you, if I can get some help with the audio-visual. In this clip I'm going to show you the Carmichael parents have just discovered that a Muslim family has moved across the street. And they are terrified. They couldn't be more scared. And so they go over, they say hi, and they're not, you know, their fears are not assuaged. They're still scared. So they see that a box has been delivered to this Muslim family, this couple. And so now they feel it is their patriotic duty to steal this box, make sure there's nothing bad inside. They bring the box home. Their grown-up son, Gerard, discovers the box. He's horrified by this, and that's where the scene picks up. So let's take a look. All right, I have one more clip, but we're a little short on time, so we'll have to do another time. Let me just say that we are working on our first ever animated film. This is something, it's also a fictional film, unlike the documentaries we've made in the past. This is a story of a young girl in the early days of the Syria crisis who has to face this terrible choice. Her mother has to decide whether to stay or to go, and they decide they have to leave. Her teacher, who loves her because she's a prize student, gives her a book of Rumi's poetry. You heard a little bit of Rumi's poetry here tonight. She falls asleep when they get on the boats, and in her dreams she meets Rumi. But not Rumi as an adult, she meets Rumi when he's 12 years old. Because when he was 12 years old, he was a refugee, escaping the Mongol hordes. And it becomes a story about the two of them meeting each other through time and space, finding inspiration from each other to overcome the demons within and to be hopeful in spite of all the difficulty they see around them. We're in the early stages of that film, and perhaps we could do a screening together sometime in the future, inshallah. God willing. So in closing, I did lie about one thing. I said I'm not going to ask you for money, but I am going to ask you to not support UPF, but we have DVDs of many of our films here tonight. You're welcome to take them with a donation. I think they've said a $25 donation to the Children of Abraham. So please take that, make a contribution to this very important organization, and take a film of your choice. In closing, let me share 3 thoughts with you, particularly to the young people who are here today, the students here today. Number 1, intentionality. As the minister told us, intentionality, purpose. 2 things can look the same on the outside, but they can be different depending on what's in your heart. And so as you go out into the world to do good, don't forget that part of it. Don't forget about thinking, what is my purpose in doing this? What's my purpose in being here tonight, in doing this good deed, this deed that seems good? Is it good in here? And secondly, that relates to the idea of character, good character. In our social media obsessed world, we've never cared more about what everybody thinks of us. And so we want to be seen as smart and pretty and clever and happy and beautiful and all these things. There's a prayer that we are told to make when we look in the mirror. Allahumma inni kama hasanta khalqi fa ahsin khulqi. Oh God, you have already made me beautiful. You have already made me good looking. And now I ask you to give me beautiful character as well. And number 3 is gratitude. We're advised to compare yourself in worldly matters with those that have less than you, and compare yourself in spiritual matters with those who have more than you. How happier are we when we learn to appreciate all the many blessings we have in our life? So I congratulate you for coming together in the spirit of fellowship. Thank you so much for this wonderful, beautiful honor, and please join me as I applaud you all. Thank you, and God bless you, and have a good day.
We thank you all for your patience in running a little overtime this evening, but you can see this was filled with tremendous inspiration and insight. So it's my pleasure at this moment to invite Shaheen Khan, who's the co-founder of Children of Abraham, principal teacher at the Hadi School of Excellence, and to share these brief announcements with us about Children of Abraham before we will conclude in just a moment with words of closing.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, shalom, peace. You know, when you take your children to Great America and you're taking them to having some fun, they ask you immediately you're taking them in the car and they ask you this question. They say, when are we going again? So this is what I've been asked the whole day, is when is our next event? So our next event is Daughters of Abraham, which is going to be on October 16th. It is inspiring stories from our 3 faiths. It's the power behind the veil. It's all three faith sharing their faith stories. It's for women, but children, teens are welcome. It's at the Turkish American Society, and our next event is another event is October 17 at the Schaumburg Library, where we are conducting a teen versus adult kind of a panel discussion, and it says Love Thy Neighbor. And another program, I think they stole my paper. Our Peace Camp, which is coming up on February 17 to 18. It is for 6th graders to 8th graders. It's the Jewish, Muslim, and Christian young people. And they will be participating to build friendship, to develop learning as to how they can stand up against faith-based prejudice and bullying. And this camp will visit Congregation Bet Shalom in St. Hills Episcopal Church and the Turkish American Society. So they will get a chance to visit all three faiths. And it's a beautiful event, and we have had many youth participate in that, and they're present here. So it is it's very good learning environment for our children. So we look forward to all three events, and this is such beautiful gathering. And I remember the time when a priest was trying to burn the Quran, when Father Corey changed that unfortunate event to a fortunate event. So we look for moments like this to change, like he said, to how can we change unfortunate events to fortunate events. And we have many occasions coming up. We look forward to meeting you. Thank you.
Just a few very quick reminders. In just a moment, we'll have our closing prayer. One, if you have not filled out this little card that you find on your table of staying informed of events, we would love to make sure that you're in communication with Children of Abraham. We'd like to know a little bit more about you, your faith community, and also to help all of our marketing endeavors. Also, for those who brought food and any containers, please make sure to take those home with you. That's always a good thing. And after our closing prayer, we're going to actually have a panoramic picture of everyone that's in the room. So after that moment of closing blessing, we'd just like to ask that you all stay put, and we're going to have a chance to take that panoramic shot. And those of you on Facebook or Instagram or other kinds of places, you'll have an opportunity to make sure to see this. So for our closing words of blessing, I'd like to invite Reverend Diane Shields, the Pastoral Care Coordinator of St. Simon's Episcopal Church of Our Lady.
On behalf of the Children of Abraham Coalition, thank you all so very much for coming this evening. We hope to see you again next year. We hope you will bring some friends with you. We also hope that this evening you have made some new friendships and that you have been encouraged and inspired to continue to work together to build a community of peace and peace in our world. Thank you for the delicious food that everyone brought. And again, please take the remaining food and the containers you brought them with you. And now let us pray. Holy One, you are our Creator and the one God of us all. We join our hearts in praise and thanksgiving for your mercy and your goodness toward us. We are all your beloved children, sisters and brothers together in the human family. We have come together tonight to build and strengthen bridges of friendship and cooperation and understanding. As we go, grant us wisdom and courage
Fill our hearts with your compassion and grace, that we might be your instruments of salam, shalom, and peace. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Okay, so I'm going to take a panoramic picture. If everyone